after a pretty cool stretch we had starting this past week and going into the start of this week, well, yesterday we saw the temperatures finally start to mild up. We saw the temperatures get into the mid to upper 40s south along the I-35 corridor, a little bit cooler for the rest of us, mostly into the low 40s and the upper half of those 30s. And now we're going to look at today because it's going to look very similar. Again, a lot of us into the lower half of the 40s, upper 30s for much of the Northland, being a bit warmer, getting into the mid to upper 40s south along the I-35 corridor. So it feels like a bit of a repeat of yesterday. And as we get into the overnight hours, unlike this morning, it'll be a little bit chillier. We're going to be getting more into those 20s, but the winds are also going to be calmer. So overall, it's going to feel pretty similar as well. And if we look here at what sky conditions, well, we're going to see a bit of cloud cover for the Arrowhead and the UP as we head through the day. But outside that, plenty of sunshine. So that's going to be a nice change of pace from yesterday, where we still had a decent amount of clouds sticking around. And as we get into the overnight hours, we're going to see plenty of clear skies for all the Northland. That does include the Arrowhead and the UP as well, which is going to be really great. If you got to miss the auroras last night, well, tonight's another shot. It won't be as strong, but we'll still be within the visible range of the aurora, so still a pretty good shot to get to see them as we get into the overnight hours. And now we're looking here at the winds, because like yesterday, it's going to be a bit blustery, and in fact, it's going to be a little bit stronger today. We're going to see some of those winds gusting closer to 30 miles per hour today, especially around and over Lake Superior. And as we start to head to overnight hours, that's where we're going to start to see that calming effect make its way in. So it won't be as blustery into Thursday. But as we do see those winds for today, we're going to see those waves start to pick up. Now, around the North Shore, the head of Lake Superior, are going to be staying pretty minimal with waves. Though, just be mindful, it'll still be a little rough out there. Now, once we get into the outer parts of the Apostle Islands, and as we get to where we have that gale warning in central Lake Superior, we're talking 5-foot waves, maybe even pushing up to 10-foot waves. So going to be a lot rougher out there. So just be mindful of that if you plan on going out on the waters, even if you just plan on going by Lake Superior. And if you're looking at the temperature anomalies, well, today, because of the 40s, I mentioned we're going to be mild. That means we're probably going to be around 5 degrees above the seasonal average. Usually kind of when I say mild, that means it's going to be a little bit above the average, but not too far from seasonal. But what's going to make it feel quite warm for November is what's going to be coming in on Friday, because we're going to have a warm up and we're going to be getting close to 20 degrees above the seasonal average as we start to head towards the end of the week. What that looks like for temperatures, well, by the time we get to Thursday, which is going to already put us a little bit on the warm side, we're looking at low 50s making their way in, especially in northwest Wisconsin. A little bit cooler into northern Minnesota, but we're looking like a lot of it's going to at least be into the mid 40s. And by the time we start to get to Friday, well, this is where we're going to still be staying in the 40s in the Arrowhead, but many of us are going to be well into the 50s. And some models are even suggesting low 60s being possible. I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing that warmth quite yet, but might be possible. So for the middle of November, it is going to feel quite warm, because usually we're in the 30s this time of year. And we're also going to be staying dry. We have this ridge of high pressure that's going to be making its way through the rest of this week. So the sunshine is going to be sticking around for a good bit until this weekend, as a disturbance is going to be making its way on through. And what that's going to look like is going to look like a cold front passing on through. And that can bring some shower action along with it. Though the totals right now are going to be quite low. It's going to be staying light. We're probably around a 1/4 inch or less. Hopefully you see a bit more to help with those drought conditions, but the models have been trending more drier as we head towards this Saturday. And as we look at those temperatures, well, because it's a cold front, it's going to be colder behind it. We're looking at highs by the time we get to Sunday. It's going to be pretty seasonal, which again, as I mentioned, mostly 30s for those highs, some low 40s. And it won't be the only chance for rain we have this weekend, because if we don't see a ton, we might see some next week. And I do say might, because even though this model right here does show a pretty good confidence in that rain making its way up here as that system pushes in out of the south, if we look at another model run here, we notice that that rain looks like it's wanting to stay off to the south. And in fact, if we look at a database that uses the composites of multiple model runs, it shows the rain probability mostly bullseyeing well off to the south, while up here in the Northland, pretty low chance. So we might see more rain next week, but right now there's not a ton of confidence in that. And as I mentioned, because of the drought conditions, we do like to see any chance for precipitation we can, because in the wintertime, it's going to be hard to get substantial precipitation to help with drought conditions. And as we head through the week, it is going to be pretty dry for now and pretty warm. So enjoy it before we get back into the more typical late fall conditions starting this weekend, and some of the wetter ones as well.